All right, let's talk about those homeowners associations. Now, they do some good things. We're going to talk about that, but there's also some really bad stories out there. I mean, I know of a situation where in Texas, a man was told by the homeowner association not to water his lawn because there was a scarcity of water, so he didn't water his lawn. A couple of weeks later, he got fined because his grass died. His grass turned brown and died because he wasn't allowed to water it. There's another story. There's a town in California where you're mandated by the HOA to leave your garage door up until I think it's like 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night. And the reason for that is they believe that some people were illegally living in other people's garages, and they want to make sure they weren't there during the day. They couldn't make the homeowners, I guess, keep the garage open at night. So during the day, the doors had to stay open. Then you got to close your garage door in the evenings. I mean, crazy stuff. I just heard recently a story of a man who he was fined because his garage door was not the right color, and it was the same color it was when he bought the house. The developer is the one who painted the garage door, then later on fined him for having the wrong color on his garage door. And he's the one that painted it. So crazy stuff out there. So anyway, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons. There are both sides to this of HOAs. So let's have some fun. Let's go to the pickup truck and let's talk about it.
Okay, Roger here, and let's talk about those HOAs. Are they not something else? Now, HOAs can be good, and HOAs can be, well, they can be horrible. All depends on several factors. But let's talk about HOAs, what they, the upside and the downside. Then I'm going to tell you something very funny, I think, about HOAs. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you something that's absolutely critical that you understand about your HOA. So anyway, HOAs do a good job in certain things. For instance, if you got a barking dog next door, what are you going to do about that? You got to tell your neighbor, hey, make your dog quit barking. You're going to call the sheriff. He's going to come out. The dog's going to continue to bark. The sheriff leaves. Next week, the dog will bark again. But you call your HOA, and they put a notice on their door. They're going to get fined for their barking dog. Guess what? Problem solved. HOAs are good at stuff like that. If you got a really sloppy neighbor that just puts all kinds of stuff in his yard, makes the whole neighborhood look horrible, HOA is pretty good about that. They're going to take care of that. HOAs can do a lot of good things. HOAs have amenities. Sometimes HOAs will take care of you. Have a clubhouse that they'll take care of, or a pool or a tennis court. HOAs can be good about that. They can landscape the entrance to your subdivision. Some HOAs will remove snow from your street. So HOAs can serve a lot of stuff. Let's say somebody's parking a lot of junky cars, in front of their house or the driveway, whatever. HOAs can be all over that. But there's sometimes when HOAs get a little bit too enthusiastic about their job, and they just kind of go overboard. For instance, and this is a classic, you're supposed to take your trash can back to your house shortly after it's picked up by the garbage truck. And if it's there an extra day, HOAs don't like that. Some neighbor is going to peek out his window. He's going to turn you in, and you're going to get a notice that you got to get that trash can back to the house. So you don't be doing that. Sometimes HOAs are a little bit too finicky about that. Or let's say if your grandkids come over and you've got some toys in the yard. Now, if you got a lot of toys, now I can see the point. But sometimes, your grandchild just may leave a scooter in the driveway and you don't notice it for a couple of days if you've not left your house. HOA may get you for that. HOAs are very particular about fences. You got to make sure your fence conforms to all the other fences in the subdivision, and don't even think about putting a fence in the front yard. And don't park an RV in your driveway. They take a real dim view of that. They don't like that. Another thing that HOAs don't like, most of them don't like you building an above ground pool, even though it's in your backyard and nobody sees it but you. A lot of HOAs will not allow that. They don't like that. They're very particular about the colors you use. Sometimes you can paint your house a color that's unapproved. Get in big trouble for that, even though it's slightly just off shade. Sometimes HOAs can get all bent out of shape about that. So they can really get you on a lot of things. Now, one of the funniest things I think that's happened with HOAs is most HOAs will not let you put up a clothesline. They just don't like to see you. Nobody wants to see your lawn or your underwear flapping in the breeze. I kind of get that. You know, we don't want to see that. So HOAs are pretty particular about, even in your backyard, no clotheslines. Well, there are 19 states now. This is funny. There are 19 states that are right to dry states. These are states that have said there's now a state law that an HOA cannot tell you that you can't put up a clothesline. They just feel like everybody ought to be able to put up a clothesline, and so the HOAs have been overruled by the state law. Now, Kentucky is not one of those states. So if the HOA in Kentucky tells you you can't put your clothesline up in the backyard, then you can't put your clothesline up. But there's one huge, mega important thing to know about HOAs right now. And this has become a trend the last couple of years where this has skyrocketed. But HOAs now, if you do not pay your HOA fees and you get behind and don't get caught up, they can foreclose on your house. Incredible. So in other words, even though you may be current on your mortgage, if you get behind on your HOA fees, they can turn you over to a lawyer. This has happened thousands of times across America where the HOA can foreclose on your house. Incredible. So just make sure if you get into a subdivision that has an HOA, make sure that you're ready to pay those dues and keep them up. It all comes down to, in my opinion, on one thing. Some HOAs are good, some are not so good. It all depends on the people running your HOA. If your HOA president wants to really make the subdivision a good place to live and he's reasonable, HOAs can be great. If you're, on the other hand, if your HOA president is on a power trip and he just likes to assert his authority over everybody in the neighborhood, then HOAs can be a nightmare. And so what I normally do when I sell a house in a neighborhood, I find out how well that HOA is run and whether or not it's oppressive or whether or not it serves the community. But anyway, know your HOA before you buy a house in the neighborhood with an HOA. And there you have it. HOAs. You gotta love them.
Get your motor running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah.